This is the I Love Success podcast. I'm Peter Jabrukovsky, and I have made a vow to myself to help as many people as possible to achieve their dreams. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to the I Love Success podcast. In today's episode, you will meet Edward Andrews, the premium sales manager for AEG, the world's biggest owner of sports teams and venues. We talked about sales, we talked about life, we talked about being different, we talked about moving forward, having goals, and just living a great life. So if you want to learn, if you want to improve your life, check it out. Here we go. Welcome, Edward.
Thank you, Peter.
Wow, you've done it all. So I'm so glad that you're here today, and we're going to talk about sales and how we can improve people's lives. But I'm a little bit curious about you. Who is Edward, really, as a person?
Yeah, Edward is a person, is a sports fan at heart. It's one thing, obviously, working in the industry. I've always, enjoyed games. I grew up playing. I enjoyed watching, and so it really, I'm someone that enjoys sports, but through that, and similar to what you mentioned kind of in your opener, is I enjoy helping people. And obviously through kind of the various roles, it's really, where you kind of find your passion and find your drive. And that was always sports for me, all growing up. And it was one of those things that what I've seen it do for me, what I've seen it do for other people that I've worked with. It really, it is kind of part of, the blueprint of who I am. Now, I love my family. I enjoy my friends. I enjoy, all those elements to my life. But obviously, you work hard hours, you work long hours. And so, one of those things is being able to work in sports. It doesn't feel like work. It's something that you're truly passionate about. And it's bigger than the paycheck or the job description or whatever, those requirements might be.
Yeah. I love that. To be able to work with something that you truly love and don't feel that it's work, that's something that most of us are looking for, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back, Edward, to you when you grew up in Detroit. Can you just talk us through that? How was life there, and some early moments in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of a unique story and where this kind of all started. And I tell people that this actually started before I was even born. So my dad, actually, he's since passed, but he was a sports broadcaster in Detroit. So he covered the Pistons, the Red Wings, all the big teams that played in Detroit. And so I kind of got my love from sports from him, and going to work and seeing what he did on a daily basis and interacting with people that he would interact with, obviously at a much younger age. But you grow up with it, and you see kind of those inner workings. It really sparked my curiosity. But then kind of coming off that, my mom is actually, she used to be a professional opera singer.
Oh, wow.
So she, obviously grew up, going to church, and she would sing, and, she would go put on performances, and we would go. And so it was kind of a unique story, and kind of how my mom and dad met. So my dad was covering the Detroit Red Wings, are the biggest team in Detroit, obviously, a lot of Stanley Cup championships. I mean, it's like royalty there. And so my dad was covering the Red Wings games, working, and my mom actually used to sing the national anthems at games. And so that was kind of how the relationship started, and how things kind of sparked. And so, obviously I've kind of, obviously would like to, continue to carry on my dad's legacy, but also just growing up with kind of that sports and music component, is something that's truly special to me. It's something that I feel like, I can share with both my parents, and it's really kind of where it all started, when I was a kid in Detroit.
Wow. Do you remember how old you were the first time you thought that I want to work with sports?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Sports is one of those things. So I have dwarfism, and so that's obviously a big piece of kind of who I am and what I've, grown up with. But that being said, I love sports and I love playing. I love playing. I still continue to play ice hockey in my spare time. But it was probably around, maybe elementary school age where I realized, I enjoy playing. I'm good, but this isn't going to be I'm not going to play professional ice hockey in the NHL. And so it was one of those where you realize and you see, okay, I want to be involved in sports, and I didn't know what that looked like. My initial interest was to be an athletic trainer, to be on with the team on the bench, helping the team, heal and be kind of right there, at all the games. And so I never kind of growing up, I was always I was decent at math. I wasn't a huge science. I wasn't getting stellar grades in science, but then I realized like, okay, maybe not athletic training, because you need a big, you need a lot of science background to excel in that field. And so it's like, okay, now how else can I look at, be involved in sports? And so then coming off there, I wanted to be a sports agent. I saw it was right when Jerry Maguire came out, the movie.
I love that movie.
That was a great movie.
I wanted to be a sports agent after that movie.
I think we all did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible. And so I was like, all right, I want to be a sports agent. And so it was like, then it's like, you've got to go to law school and you've got to do this. And so it's like, I don't know if I want to necessarily do that. And it's something that I, not that I haven't ruled it out, but I've kind of gotten on a track now where, coming off kind of the sports agent, then it's like, okay, maybe not a sports agent, but I enjoy watching the games. I like, analyzing the players and what's happening and the stats behind everything. And so it was like, okay, maybe getting into like, the sports side of the business, meaning on like player operations, scouting, kind of those backgrounds within the industry. And I'll never forget this. I was an intern. It was my first ever internship. It was with the Detroit Tigers baseball team, actually. And I was sitting down with my boss and supervisor at the time, and he brought up a very real question of, you've got to realize, one of the best kind of career pieces of advice that I've gotten to this day is, you've realized like what track do you want? Because sports is obviously so massive and so big. There's the sports side, the development, the scouting, being on the player personnel side, and the hopes of one day becoming a general manager of a team. And obviously I didn't play professionally. A lot of times those jobs go to folks that have played professionally. But then he's like, or the business side. So it's like looking at the sports or the business side. And I had always kind of grown up as an entrepreneur in my mind and always had jobs, and I was always trying to, raise money to get things that I like or to save money for things that I like, right? And it was just, that was where the light bulb kind of clicked. It was, you know what, the business side, like this is it. And he brought up a couple of really good questions. He's like, how are your statistics grades? Because obviously we were talking about kind of a baseball general manager role. And I was like, they're good. I mean, I'm not in the most advanced of classes, and I didn't even think about that. And then he's like, are you bilingual? And then I was like, no. And you realize, obviously, in most of the sports, hockey, baseball, right, you have guys, and gals from all over the world that are the best. And so being able to communicate with them, their families, their people, all of it. And I was like, you know what, the business side was really where I realized, and, in hindsight, and hopefully for people listening, it's one of those things, I realized it, I may have realized it a little later than I wanted. You can never control when you kind of realize that. Had I realized it maybe earlier in my career, maybe in, when I was in high school and kind of knew what I wanted, things could have been, a little different, or the track could have changed a little bit.
You did pretty well.
We're okay. Yeah, we're hanging in there. We're doing okay.
So I'm curious, you said that you wanted to play sport, but you realized maybe I can't become a professional athlete. How did that feel? was that a tough moment?
It
in your life?
was, yeah, it was incredibly tough. So the I grew up playing ice hockey. That was really my bread and butter growing up in Detroit. It's what everybody plays. All my friends played it. I played it, and I was fortunate that my parents let me play it because due to what I was born with and grown up with, I'm actually the only person that I know that has actually like played competitively and kind of played through their childhood and not in ice hockey too, not a roller hockey. But I was in when was this? I feel like it was right like middle school, 7th, 8th grade was when we went to see a doctor. I was having an annual check, and the doctors were like, like it was when the checking and obviously growth spurts were happening and everything. The level of competition and skill were getting a lot higher, and so I'll never forget this. And it would tough nights, long nights, obviously for my mom and my dad. Obviously, just me feel just kind of feeling handcuffed. That was when I was like, what, I've got from playing competitively and playing with my friends that I need to kind of cut it, and just in the fear of potentially getting paralyzed. There was a big thing about just my spine, and that it wasn't as necessarily big as someone of average heights might be, and so the risk of being paralyzed is a lot higher, and obviously it wasn't something that my parents wanted me to risk. Obviously I understood. I obviously
How old were you?
God, that was 13.
13,
yeah 13, 14.
It's so tough because I had an NFL player, Keith Mitchell. He's now a yogi, and he injured himself at 31, very early in his career, and it was so difficult when you realize you can't do something that you really want to do. So you almost have to reinvent your life. Do you feel like this changed like the course of your life, that you felt? Did you feel different, or did you say no? It's like how did you think? Because I feel like I'm from an immigrant family in Sweden, and sometimes I felt different, and I think we all feel different sometimes. But now the older I've got, I feel it's a strength, to have something that is unique.
It is, yeah. It 100% is. It definitely felt different. So coming off once I kind of hung the skates up from competitive play. Obviously, I still stayed friends with all of my friends, and they continued to play. So it was going to the games were really tough. Quite frankly, initially, and then I had kind of a unique opportunity, unique moment, however you want to kind of look at it, where, I think it helped maybe get my mind off playing and that element. So when I was in high school, the hockey team, our high school hockey team, they obviously drew well and everyone came out to support, but I remember going to a game, and it was like they had, somebody, one of the dads or something was playing music kind of over the loudspeaker. And I grew up, obviously listening to my mom, and she, obviously listened to all these things. My dad was on a radio station, so I grew up with music in my life kind of more than I necessarily probably thought about at the time. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I could do this, and I could do it better, and I know what all my buddies want to hear, and I know what would get them fired up, because it'd be the same stuff that would get me fired up. And so I, talked to the dad and talked to the coach, and was like, hey, like, do you mind if I just kind of take over the music responsibilities for the team and for the games? And, that was, it was fun, because obviously, I'm still in the locker room, I'm still, yapping it up with the guys, and, and also, being part of the game and part of the experience, just kind of in a little bit of a different light, different element. Obviously, you had, friends and people around school, like, oh, the game was a blast last night, like, that was so much fun, like, no, and then, even just people from other schools that, you meet that were maybe on the opposing team, the fans are coming up to me saying, that was odd, like, I couldn't believe it. So it was really, kind of a unique moment and kind of time in my life where, I tried to turn what, was a negative, obviously, and having to kind of retire from playing competitively to like, all right, still being a part of the game, taking on kind of a unique position, still having fun, still providing enjoyment to people. And so that was, that was one time where
that's really
cool. It kind of came together. But.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you have this great energetic voice.
Yeah.
It's so good. So
I thank my dad for that. Yeah.
It's so good. So I think working with sales and with people, your voice probably helps you a lot. Can you talk about like you sell experiences, right?
100%.
So what have you learned from sales, and why do you like sales?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I love sales, and on the surface, on the macro level, that you're able to help people and you're able to learn about people. I think that's one thing that I enjoy the most about my job, whether they buy anything or not. It's being able to connect with people, being able to learn their story, being able to really meet someone unique that might be able to help you, someone that you might be able to learn from, someone that you may be able to have a deeper connection with that's bigger than the company or the team or whatever it might be. And so I in my career, sales is one of those, obviously for people that are trying to get into the industry, get your pens and papers out, but sales is the easiest way to get into sports. If you want to work for a team, that is 100% the easiest way to get in. And that was one thing that I realized. I don't know that I realized it as much at the time, obviously, since it's really become very, evident. But it was, the easiest way to get in. And so I started in Florida with the Panthers, selling, season tickets, calling people that bought one game and trying to sell ice hockey in Florida. And obviously it was one of those things that I did have success, and I feel like my voice and personality and getting to know people one-on-one, obviously being able to, talk through my love of hockey through other people that might love hockey or may not know anything about hockey, and being able to kind of be the first voice, the first impression, the first kind of contact they have with the sport, which is something that, just goes so deep in my blood and my veins, that it was, that was kind of when it clicked that like, what, sales is one of those, it's bigger than sales. We're all selling. I feel like someone told me, it's like you're selling yourself every day, no matter what you do, the image, the clothes that you wear, to how you present yourself, to what you say, to, all those factors that kind of go into just you as a person is, seamless with sales, because it's...
I totally agree. I think that a lot of people are afraid of selling. And on this podcast, we have people that people that listen and watch this, they want to become something. They want to do something with their life, either in sports or as an entrepreneur, music, or whatever it might be. But to do that, you have to sell, right? Either yourself, either your personality, or a product. So why are people so afraid of selling, you think?
I mean, I would say, in maybe the fear of rejection. Right? You have the fear of public speaking, and there's that stat that people would rather die before standing in front of an audience and speaking and presenting, which is sales, and so it's really that's where it's difficult, and that's where the constant rejection, the constant uphill battle, the constant maybe misperceptions of family and friends and people in the community. Oh, you're in sales. It's like, no, you're in sales. If you're a doctor, you're selling on why this treatment is going to make sense for a patient. So it's like, even in those types of careers and roles, you're still selling. It's just, maybe the framing of it is a little bit different. But
you're so right. I've been selling since I was a kid. My parents had a tobacco shop, so I used to sell. We're 6-7 years old. I couldn't even reach the counter. So I've been working with this all my life. And some people are like, a salesman, they see it as someone who is shoving something down their throat, basically. That's not about sales. I think sales is delivering value, and delivering more value than you actually receive, right? So let's talk about when you started with phone sales, right?
Yeah.
How do you get the attention of the customers? Do you have any tips and tools?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's being likable. It's being able to kind of let your personality shine through. Obviously when I, started my career and even to this day, sometimes obviously there's trainers and different people, oh, say this, ask open-ended questions and, all these different tricks and certainly there's a method to the madness in terms of following a process and accomplishing what goals you kind of want to set out. But I think what really makes people successful in sales, and it's one thing that we kind of pride ourselves on in our organization, is just having people from all walks of life and all backgrounds that are passionate, are relatable, and are just kind of being their authentic self with the people they're talking to. Because if they're not being authentic, you're going to lose distrust in whoever you're trying to sell or whoever you're working with, and then you're probably not going to get the sale either as a result of that. So I think it's just being able to be real with people, and then once you're able to be real, then kind of all the kind of 201 level elements to it, and in terms of different tricks or how to ask the right question, how to run a meeting, how to run a presentation, how to run having lunch with someone that might be kind of a sales lunch, how to kind of act in all of those unique scenarios.
So basically, when it comes down to, it's about yourself and how you develop yourself as a human being, right?
Yeah.
So how do you work with that? How do you work with your confidence? How do you work with self-development and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I read a lot. I try to always kind of stay ahead of what's going on in the industry. One thing that, I have the fortune, I'm fortunate to be able to do this, but in my role and in sales, I like to learn, right? I feel like I'm a sponge and I enjoy business, but I also enjoy all the people that I'm meeting with. And so kind of learning a lot about their industries, learning about the legal industry, learning about what's happening in construction, in media, in tech, in finance, all of these kind of different industries, and figuring out, what their the people that I'm meeting with, what their goals are and how they got into it and what that connection was, if it was a family thing or someone wanted to buck the trend and be an entrepreneur and not go down the maybe family owned business. And so it just really, it's been fun and it's something that, I still enjoy and I love doing to this day. But I think that's, that's kind of where I get better, where I am always trying. Obviously, there's different conferences and different publications. Or Sports Business Journal, for anyone that's trying to get into the sports industry, comes out once a week, and it's kind of like the Wall Street Journal is for finance, but it really, it talks about everything from naming rights, sponsorship deals on venues to, community partners and promotions that they might do with a local hospital, for a minor league baseball team. So it covers everything kind of in between, and where people are going, who's hiring, where people are starting to work, and so the Sports Business Journal obviously is one where you're always trying to kind of stay ahead of the curve. One thing about sports and is that we all kind of work closely together in the sense of if you were to pick a team, any team, in any of the four kind of major pro leagues, like I'm most likely going to know someone directly there, or if not, know someone that could introduce me to someone there. And so that, that it's very fortunate to be able to do that and be able to bounce ideas off, maybe other teams. Obviously, selling in LA is different than selling in Sacramento or South Florida for an NHL hockey team. And so, we work closely, obviously, with our folks at the Garden and in New York and the Yankees and Chicago at the United Center. So it's a good kind of good tool and good resource to have to be able to kind of rely on other people. And it's obviously not a one-way street. I mean, I get calls all the time about, hey, do you know anyone? I'm trying to help find somebody for this role, or I'm having an issue with this potential prospect, or how we're gonna look into pricing a certain area or building out a new product or whatever that looks like. So.
I love it. It seems like you have genuine interest for people. And when I meet people that are good in sales, they usually have genuine interest to talk to people and to learn about them.
Yep.
Do you know where that comes from?
It's a great question. I I would say if to be, very upfront here, I would say it probably comes from people always have questions about me, I feel like, and they're afraid to ask maybe in some cases. And so, and obviously I'm a pretty open book and willing to share things. And so I think maybe just maybe as a young, when it kind of first started was maybe a way for me to kind of take the attention off myself and put it on someone else. Yeah. Good or bad, I maybe didn't realize it at the time, but then obviously working in sales and as your relationships and friendships and all that evolve, it's something that you realize and you learn, and that's something that I'd say both my parents kind of instilled in me, and I just saw it through how they conducted themselves.
And how about when people ask you questions? Has that been tough for you, or how do you work with that? Yeah,
I think it's one of those things that you've got to be very just I like to have fun with it, and I'm a very open guy, sociable and outgoing and all that, and so I want to educate, but I also want to do it in a way where I'm not, trying to educate like a 10th grade English teacher. Yeah. This is what you should say, and this is how you should, times have changed. You know what I mean? And so there's so much, obviously, be it in the entertainment world or what happens, on.
But you have to be confident to do that.
You know,
where does that confidence come from? Because I admire your confidence. I think I'm pretty confident, but I've worked a lot with it. When I was in, I think it was, I don't know what's called, middle school, 4th to 6th grade, I used to be overweight and short. Yeah. And then I started training a lot, doing a lot of martial, so I was skinny, but now I was the skinniest kid and the shortest. So it was so hard to have confidence at that time. Yeah. And I've worked a lot with myself, read a lot, tried, all these things. And now I can say I'm stronger, but can you just share how did you work with that? Because I know it's quite tough when you don't see yourself as you want to be seen, right?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. I think the confidence thing, I think I got from supportive family, quite frankly, the supportive friends that, one thing that I've learned and I've seen kind of as my career's gone, as I've grown as a person, is like that confidence comes from like your supporting team, right? You think like obviously sports, in hockey, baseball, basketball, you're all working as this cohesive unit to accomplish a goal. And so kind of a piece of advice and a piece of thing that I had is like finding people that support you, that drive you, that motivate you, that will tell you you're screwing up, and being honest, and just people that are able to help drive you forward, because that's going to give you the confidence to whatever your goal is, whatever you want to accomplish. If you have that kind of not safety net, but just kind of that cushion of love and support. Now most people are going to get it from their family naturally, yes, but you also need friends and peers that I think help drive you, and that's one thing where I've been successful, and friends in all different markets that I have, and people that I still keep in touch with, that if I were this is my team, and this is the group of people that have helped me, have seen me at my worst, they've seen me at my best, they've seen kind of the inner workings in between, they've seen the mistakes be made, but they've also seen the successes. I think that's where my confidence comes from, and I think it just kind of naturally comes out, because I know in the back of my head that like, yes, there's me, but there's also all these other people that I love, support, admire, and obviously I would hope that I'm on their team as well, and it's a two-way street there, but that I'm not going to let them down, and I'm just going to continue to push on and kind of give my best, right?
I love that. I met with Sean Stevenson, a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And he said, never believe a prediction that does not empower you. And I love that because his whole, I think he had 200 fractures before he was 18 or something like that. He could just sneeze. He has a disease called brittle bone disease. And people always told him, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I love what he said, never believe a prediction does not empower you. How do you feel? Have people told you that you can't do this and can't do that? And how have you worked with that in your own mind? Because it seemed like you had this great team behind you.
Yeah.
And I love that because go fast, go alone.
Yeah.
Go far, go together.
Yes.
And I think that's really true, right?
It is. Yeah. And you know, in your life, right?
Yeah.
Family, friends, coworkers, colleagues, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs help sometimes.
We need to reach out to people. You
know?
And how have you handled those situations in your life when people have said that you can't do this?
Yeah, I mean, it's discouraging, right? It's tough. You try not to listen to them. I kind of, you know, a unique story. So I grew up playing sports, but I also played sports for so the people that have, you know, dwarfism. There's an athletic league that's called the Athletic Association of America, and they have you know, leagues across the world too. Like UK has a team, Ireland has a team, Australia has a team. I feel like there's kind of teams in each country. And so obviously growing up in America, this, you know, was part of the DAAA, and we, you know, each year the national conference you'd have, you know, athletic events, track and field, soccer, basketball, volleyball. Never had ice hockey to this day, but that's okay.
That would be the next one.
That'll be the next one. Yeah. We had floor hockey, and but nonetheless, I was in Toronto, and it was in 2001, and I was in, is it 7th, 8th grade, and I remember going, this was the World Game, so this is where all the countries came in, and I was obviously as part of Team USA for my age group, and I had some good success. I had a couple track records, you know, in terms of being one of the, you know, the fastest dwarfs on earth, and I'll never forget, I was at registration, and my dad, and this is kind of typical of him, but it was kind of unique to him. He was like, "You're done." He's like, "I don't see you medaling in track this year." And I was like, "Why do you say that?" And he's like, I've just seen it. I've been here," like, he was working, like, helping work registration, and he's like, "I've seen, like, all these athletes come in, like, they're gonna run over you." And I don't know if he was doing it mentally to, like, really get me focused and dialed in, or if, you know, I don't in hindsight, I don't think he would have said that if he didn't think that I could do it. Fast forward, I ended up winning the gold medal in the track. So it was one of those, you know, maybe a motivational trigger that he tried to, like, get me down to help me, you know, focus and get back into what I'm doing. And so that, you know, that was kind of one thing where someone that tried to get me down to,
I love that.
Kind of soar above, but
it's like putting, like, you got that fire, like inner fire, right?
Yeah.
I meet a lot of people that are very successful, just like you, and a lot of them talk about that inner fire to show that I can do this. When people say I can, to have that inner sense of, is both pain and revenge, right?
Yep.
Have you had that in your life?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very, very deep. I mean, obviously, you know, working, you know, in a working world, you know, you deal with all people across all walks that want to get into this industry, and it's just so competitive, and it's so, you know, no different than playing sports or you know, music competition or whatever that is. It really, you know, that's kind of what drives me every day, is like, I know that there are a million people gunning for my job and what I do on a daily basis. And so it's just like, I need to stay focused. I need to stay motivated. I need, you know, I find, you know, a lot of it is like music and exercise is where I kind of find that fire. You know, I can find that the de-stressing, and I'm able to kind of get in the zone, get productive, kind of get your mind right to then go into, you know, a day at work or whatever activity or thing that I might be doing or focusing on at that given time. So yeah, I mean, and I think that kind of comes from playing sports at a young age, is kind of always, you know, getting ready for the game and, you know, just staying focused and always trying to be better than you were the day before. And that's where I, you know, do find that fire and find that internal thing. And so it's one of those things you know, and now since I've kind of gone, a lot of that fire comes from my dad. I have a photo of him on my desk every day. It's been on every desk of every job that I've ever worked at. And, you know, it's like a photo that it's like, he's kind of waving, and it reminds me and keeps me kind of focused on what I'm doing, and that I want to make him proud, and I want to continue to deliver on his legacy and kind of the, you know, skills and attributes and all the, you know, just kind of qualities and things that he's kind of instilled in my life and who I am as a person. You know, that's kind of where my current fire comes from, is just wanting to make him proud and wanting to do that. So.
I love that, and I think he's looking down and is very proud of you. Yeah, you done great, and I think to be able to come so far, and you probably meet a lot of people from all walks of life, because you are in the premium sales, right?
Yeah.
And it's such an incredible thing to sell and experience that cool, going to a basketball game, going to a baseball. It's something that is so fun, right?
It is. Yeah. It is fun. It's you know, it obviously has, you know, like any job, there's always, you know, I always kind of joke about sports is it's like a little bit like Oz behind the curtain. You know, you kind of see the inner workings of, you know, this is a challenge, you know, you got to debunk the myths that, you know, I'm hanging out with, you know, Kyle Kuzma or Lonzo Ball or Anze Kopitar or the Kings. You know, it's not like they're sitting next to me hanging out and we're just talking basketball or hockey. You know, it's a job, right, at the end of the day, and it's, you know, very, you know, there can be challenges with it as well. You know, just due to certain, you know, cost structures and you know, just trying to find the right people. But it's certainly fun, and the games are really where, you know, you see that enjoyment, right? You see the dad and his kid, or you see the you know, whoever it is, my client and maybe his client, that are at the game, you know, enjoying beers or having, you know, hot dogs together, and all of a sudden a great moment happens and everyone's giving high fives, and people are, you know, obviously when I was with the Yankees, we had some good playoff runs, and you're popping champagne, and it's just like those moments, right? That, like, those experiences that you're able to share with these people that were strangers, you know, a week ago, but now all of a sudden you've been able to put an impact into their life, into their experience, and, you know, that's rewarding. Where, you know, I'll get an email the next day, you know, hey, that night was incredible. I just closed, you know, a great deal with this guy, and it was because, like, you were able to help set that up and help kind of guide them to be able to their goal and to what they're looking for, and you know, even too, just like the time spent with friends and family, right? We're all busy. We've all got a million distractions happening with Instagram and apps and, you know, all just kind of different people trying to grab your attention. Whereas you come to a game and you can sit down with your kids, or you can sit down with your wife or a concert and be able to have that 2-3 hours of, you know, kind of semi-uninterrupted time to just, you know, take a night in and forget about work, forget about, you know, stresses that you might have, for all those things, and you're able to kind of have a little bit of an outlet. And so, you know, kind of being around that, you know, every day, it definitely, I'm fortunate to be in it. So.
It's pretty cool. How about yourself? I know myself, because I struggled a lot with my confidence when I was younger, and I worked on myself a lot. So it took me a very long time to have the courage to let people into my life. And
Yeah.
I mean, really let them in. On the surface,
Yep,
yes, but
yep.
to really be honest, and we're talking about deep relationships here. How have you worked with that? Is that something that is difficult for you, or what? Can you just share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a Scorpio, and I don't follow the astrology too much. I had an ex-girlfriend who actually ended up, getting me much more involved with it and understanding of it. But that being said, Scorpios are actually very guarded and very kind of to themselves, and so it's something that I'm still quite honestly working with. I am social, I am outgoing now on deeper levels, deeper family relationships, core friends that I've known since I've been 9-10 years old that know more about me than a client that I just met, kind of thing. That I think it just takes time, and I think it's one of those that over time, as I've kind of gotten older and grown up a little bit, I've been able to share a little bit more with some people in terms of where maybe more pain points are, or where when I am down, and being able to be vulnerable and be kind of open in that world, it's something that is a challenge, and it for me personally, but I do over time, as I gain comfort with people, then I think there's
it is.
You kind of open up in stages, or you open up kind of deeper than.
It is difficult. Like I remember, like when I think I was 16 or 17, I had a hard time with the girls.
Yeah.
So we were talking with my friends, how can we do this? And at that point, there came a book called The Game. I don't know if you read it. And then we started doing all the trying to attract girls.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked, but when you actually went on date 2, date 3, if you didn't have the personality for it, it didn't work out. So I started working on my whole personality, and it changed my life, because sports is one thing. I think it's great for confidence. Sales too. And then how can you put that into like a everyday life?
Yeah.
And if you can do all those things, it's pretty fun, but it's very difficult.
It is.
What's your opinion about that?
Yeah. Oh, it's a great question. It's definitely something that does, it just kind of overlap very quickly, right? If you're selling, I'm selling a suite to a bank versus I'm selling myself on a first date.
Yeah.
Very similar kind of, strategy and outcome. It's definitely one of those things where where I've noticed is like being able to kind of turn it on and turn it off. But that's one thing, when you're dealing, with girls and dating and just everyday life, it's one of those things where you need to be open and no different than, if I'm dealing with someone and I'm not being my, true authentic self, they can read through my bullshit, right? Yeah. And then same with a girl, if I'm sitting at dinner and I'm trying to be, something that I'm absolutely not, like, okay, they may, depending on, kind of where their mind's at, maybe you fool some longer than others, but it's, it definitely is very transferable in just kind of, your everyday life and this, sales and the skill sets in that world. So it's, I think confidence is it though. Yeah. Confidence, being able to connect with people, being able to, really just.
And what do you do on a daily basis to work on your confidence? You talked about training and music and those things. Can you just share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that goes back to my dad, but when I was, very young in growing up, maybe elementary school or so, he told me, he's like, people are going to judge you before you even open your mouth. So, as I kind of processed that, okay, so before I open my mouth, they're going to judge how you look. Now, I like to work out and stay in shape. So that's a big piece of the look, staying healthy, right?
Yeah.
But then also, for whatever, however you want to take this, it's like what you're wearing, right? How do you look? Are you presentable? Do people trust you? Do you seem like you've got, your shit together, right?
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I kind of saw and noticed and kind of took to heart was, okay, yeah, I kind of see that. So then as I kind of grew in my career and start, making, an actual living, I was like, you know what, I'm going to actually spend a lot of my resources on just like appearances, right? And like how you look and are you presentable? And it carries over whether I'm walking down the street to go get a cup of coffee or I'm at a game having dinner with, a top executive for some company. And so it's all about kind of how you present yourself. And so being able to kind of dress well and clothes that fit and all that. And so that's kind of, thinking like Superman puts on his cape in the morning. It's kind of one of those things where, the teams put on their jerseys and, LeBron doesn't have a jersey that doesn't fit. It's right there. And so it's like, this is kind of my jersey every day. And so being able to like, and that starts your day off, right?
I love
when
it.
you get up in the morning, you're able to like get ready and you're just like, yep, that you're ready to go for today. And so I think that kind of sets the tone and like sets the stage for being able to feel confident in going into your day. That I would say is one thing that
I love
that
it.
people don't really necessarily think about or really.
It's so important how people like see you. I have a very good friend, and he grew up in the northern part of Sweden, and he was from Ghana, I think, and he said. No, he's from Gambia, I think. Yeah. So, but anyway, he's colored, right? And over there is only white people.
Yeah.
And he said they have a different perspective when they see him. So because they think maybe who is this guy? But when he's opened his mouth, perfect Swedish, hey guys, how are you?
Yeah.
Everything changed,
Yeah.
And also appearance, right? If you are not taking care of yourself. And if you're not respecting yourself, how do you expect other people to do, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And it's very easy to see that, but I think it's hard the days when you feel low. Don't you feel that sometimes? Like, I don't feel like putting on my suit today because I just want to be in my bed, like crying or whatever. How do you change that? Because everybody has that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say it's just kind of a mental state. I saw a photo and it was like one of the like meme. It was like a meme, but it was more of like a motivational meme, and it's something that like the devil woke you up. You're like, oh shit, he's up, and so it's like having that mentality, like he means business, and it was like the photo is like taking that first step, and so. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a video of the Navy SEAL commander giving a commencement speech about making your bed, and that's kind of how the first step to, your day and accomplishing a goal and all of that. And so I think it's no different. And this first step is before you make the bed and before you put on the suit and before you shower and get kind of ready to accomplish your day. And so, that's kind of one thing that.
So important.
It is.
Just
starting.
Yeah, just starting. I just released a book about morning routines that is based on all the podcast guests I've had on, just because 90% of the people that I met on this podcast woke up early and had specific routines.
Yep.
Can you share your morning routines?
Yeah, absolutely. So my morning routine, it varies, just kind of depending on the day of the week, not just kind of by default. So. My morning routine, I keep my windows open. So whenever, the sun comes in, the sun helps wake me up. Now, when we have, there's hockey games, and sometimes I'll pick up hockey at 5 a.m, at 6 a.m, and those, quite honestly, are my best days. Yeah. I feel like, in terms of, I gotta start, I'm gonna be productive, I don't have to try and find time to work out. or if we have a game that night and I'm working late, you know, I don't have to try and squeeze a gym session in at lunch or whatnot. It's like, you know, you wake up, I always, and this kind of comes back to the music, but I always have a few songs that I'll put on right in the morning when I, you know, just kind of get my day going. Oh man. So there was a Nike commercial years ago with Tom Brady was actually in it, and on the background was Rock and Rolling Noise Pollution by AC/DC. And then it was just like it starts slow and it gets you kind of going through it, but then it crescendos kind of towards the top. So that's one that, you know, it just kind of gets me going, gets my mind right, gets you in a mood to really get going. There, you know, when I was younger, and my buddy and I used to have a joke about this one. It was that Soulja Boy, Turn Your Swag On, and that was another one. It's like, you know, I was an idiot at the time, but whatever.
Love it.
That song,
if it gets you going,
right? Hopped out of bed, turned my swag on, and so it was like back to your question about the confidence, right? Being able to kind of find your swag, find that,
change your mood,
wake up, change your mood, and really kind of accomplish your day. And so. So, you know, my morning routine, obviously, we'll start with music. I'll, you know, sometimes go and play hockey in the mornings just to get the blood going, to really get focused. Yeah. Coffee is obviously a big piece of my day. Yeah. Also, I never loved it when I was young, but then now I feel like I'm addicted to it. But nonetheless, you know, that's kind of my reward and how I've always looked at it. Obviously, you know, working in sales and life, you know, you always kind of strive for certain rewards. So like, throughout my day, and even more specifically, like my morning, like my reward is getting coffee. Like if I'm up, I'm dressed, I've got my suit on, I'm ready to go and accomplish my goals for today. Like I deserve a cup of coffee, and then I'll go get my coffee. And so it's like being able to kind of have those kind of small stages and checkpoints that you want to get through.
I love that because you have to change your whole state in the morning. So I love that you have those music. And I talked to one guy. What he's doing. When he's in bed, before he even open his eyes, he imagined himself as a rocket. Okay. And he's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like he's a rocket. Like he's gonna kick the ass of the day. I love that.
That is good.
It's a very good thing. And you do the same thing with your AC/DC music. Come on, let's do this. I don't care about you haters or whatever it is. I'm gonna be in control of my own life. And that's one thing that I love with you. It seems like you are in control with your life. You choose sport. You choose to go to this world championship. You choose to compete. You're not gonna feel sorry for yourself like many people do, because it's so easy to play the blame game. And maybe you've done it yourself. I've done it, but it doesn't get you anywhere. No one cares at the end of the day. It's tough, but for you guys listening, you can say, you might be this or that or come from this family or this country, but at the end of the day, no one cares. You have to care about yourself. You have to create your own life, and the right people will respect you no matter how you look, no matter who you if you're short, tall, skinny, fat. It's not about that. It's about how you can carry yourself, right? And be proud of who you are.
Absolutely.
And it's not easy. If it were easy, everyone could have done it. But you can do it if you start educating yourself, learning, going out there, meeting the right people. And I think sports is something mutual for us that changed our lives, because once you meet people from all over, you realize, wow, this is kind of cool, because people are cool everywhere, right? No matter how they look, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's kind of got a unique story, and
everybody has
comes
a story,
from a different background, and you know, you're a better person after meeting people, as a result of it. So.
And a lot of times we see someone, maybe I see you and say, oh shit, Edward, he's the premium sales manager for AEG. That's dope, right? Yeah. And maybe I get jealous, right? How could he do that, But maybe you think the same with me, right? Or with someone else. He did that. But it's not about that. It's about creating yourself, and everybody has their problems. But you keep going. So If you could give 3 tips to become a better salesman,
Yeah.
what would that be?
Find your true self. And what I mean by that is being able to be authentic with people, being able to really show that you care about them, and even if you don't, help kind of train your mind and how you could care about them.
Yeah.
That would be certainly one. I think focus, self-discipline, just being able to, it's kind of focus, self-discipline, self-motivation, because when in many cases in a sales environment, there's going to be other salespeople around you that may be friends, may be far sworn enemies, or everything in between. But being able to kind of stay focused on your goal, on your objective, and what you want to accomplish, certainly as a team and as a group, obviously everyone wants to do well and succeed, yes, but, being kind of less caught up with what other people are doing, and like focus on yourself and how can you get better, and how maybe you learn from some of the people that are around you. And that's something that I highly encourage, is really trying to be vulnerable, be open with folks around you, but being able to be self-disciplined, self-motivated in that world. And, then, at the end of the day too, I think it's hard work, it's being defeated, it's being able to kind of overcome objections, and,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think we have this misconception that being a great entrepreneur or a great salesperson, that it comes easy. Usually it's hard work. And
it is.
if we look at the people that usually sell the most, it is the people that are actually calling the most, have the most meetings, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I just read about the best salesman ever recorded he has the Guinness World Record. I think he sold more than 13,000 cars.
Okay.
In the course of 18 years or something. Yeah. And the whole reason why he did that was because he was, every month to all his clients, he sent them a postcard.
Yep.
And sooner or later, handwritten postcard, and sooner or later they had to come in and buy a car. So one day, I think his record was to sell 18 cars in one day, or it's some crazy thing. And he sold more than 95% of all dealerships in America or something like that. But it was about that grinding
Yeah.
all the time. And then, of course, you will be rewarded, but you have to be genuine. Like you said, talking to people. If I'm really not interested in what you have to say, I think you will notice that, because as human beings, we notice when people are not true to themselves.
Yeah.
And real relationships, you have to actually be true to yourself.
Yeah.
I have 2 more questions for you, Edwin.
Yeah.
So one thing is that I ask my guest is, imagine you're 87 years old.
Okay.
And you're sitting in a rocking chair somewhere in a dream house, maybe at the beach, or I don't know where your dream house is. And you're just thinking about your life. What do you want to see? What do you want to have accomplished to feel like, wow, this was a good run?
Yeah, I mean, for me, seeing kind of the evolution of sports and music in society, meaning, obviously there's, tech and video games and all these other kind of outlets and streams where people are, sports are continuously as big as they were when I was a kid, or bigger. And that I was able to kind of help the, the industry, the leagues, be bigger than they are, whether that's, through global expansion, through, different ways that, just more kids are playing ice hockey, or, kids that might have, when I was growing up, that might have never played sports are playing sports versus doing something else. And likewise, with music, and different genres and different, kind of types of music are always kind of continuing to evolve. So as obviously, tech and, all space travel and all, when I'm 87, I mean, could there be arenas and venues on, other planets possibly? What does that look like? I know, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all these guys are trying to continue, because, us as a population, as a society, as a globe, like we're kind of, we're killing ourselves, but, how can sports and music continue to kind of provide joy to people? That's one thing that I would love to see, at when I am that age, and that, my family is more invested than I am, in terms of that, and it provides them maybe more enjoyment than maybe me, so that I would say is one.
What do you want to see in your personal life?
Personal life. I mean, I certainly, so I am single. It's one of those things where I've kind of moved around a lot, working for different teams. I was always focused on LA and getting here, and so, being able to kind of put roots here and be kind of entrenched in the community and everything here, I feel like, love to be married, have a family, all those things. Certainly my family means, the most to me. My sister lives here in Studio City, and so it's great to see her and kind of have that sounding board, while also obviously having friends that live here as well, and so being able to kind of still be close to family and friends, that's really where.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
And I have one last question that I ask all my guests, and we're all about sharing stories, but at the end of the day, we want the people that are listening and watching to this to do something with their own life, to start creating what they dream about, just like you have done. So if you could give them one tool, what they should do right after this to at least get started, what would that be?
They should buy their own domain. Meaning edwardandrews.com. That one wasn't available, but I have edward-andrews.com. So I was a little late to the party. So if you need to do it right now, I feel like, buying your domain, because you never know what your own personal brand could look like, right? Are you an author? Are you an actress? Are you a business executive? Are you a blogger? Are you starting your own company? Whatever kind of path that you want to go in the technology world of this day and age, buying your domain is so valuable, I feel like, right now, because you're able to kind of have your mark and you made a step. Now, I'm not saying go build a very robust website right now, but all right, get your domain. And then I feel like it's like, you've got your domain, okay, what's next from here? Maybe it is build a website and you've got all the content and you've got it ready to go and you're off and running. Great, you're ahead of the game. But I feel like that would be one step that I would say, it's something transferable, it's you take the personal ownership of it. I would say that would be something to immediately do.
That's so cool. I've never heard that before, but it's one of the best tips I ever heard. So guys, go and buy your domain. Edward, I just want to say thank you for the bottom of my heart for you coming here. It's meant the world to me that you wanted to share your story, and I am certain that it will help many people. So thank you so much.
So. Yeah. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. And thank you guys for watching and listening to this. I had a great time today with Edward Andrews. If you like this podcast, what I want you to do is share it with your friends, your family, and also give us 5 stars on iTunes, because to build this community and to help 10 million people in 10 years, like we want to do, we can't do it ourselves. We need you to start building your dreams, to buy your domain right now. Otherwise, Edward might do it. And go after this. And let's help each other out and let's create good lives, because we only have one life, and let's make the best out of it. Thanks again, and talk soon.